But before we go there, wow, the whoppers that are in the news again today. I was aware of the globalist agenda to roll this out, but not this quick. The new thing that's going to get really hot, and you're going to be phobic if you don't like it, now that they've moved on to their final phase with Caitlyn Jenner and the rest of it, is becoming disabled by choice, not chance, trans-abled. See, they're abled. People feel like imposters in their fully working bodies. They need to chop their arms and legs off. I first saw a documentary probably 12, 13 years ago at South by Southwest, and I forget the name. I got invited to a couple of the showings as a media person, and I went to it. And it showed these gay men that had moved to Mexico where it was legal. It wasn't legal here in the U.S. And he chopped both his arms and legs off because he chopped one arm off, and that wasn't enough, and the other arm, and then one leg. And then he wore a diaper and lived in a box. And his lover took care of him and changed his diaper. Now, of course, that's completely degenerate, completely perverted, completely satanic, completely and totally sick. And they're going to move and make you pay for it. Now, if somebody thinks they're a woman, a lot of the genetics are there. There are studies that some people have a woman's brain in a man's body, or a man's brain in a woman's body, especially with all the chemicals in utero early on in the development. I mean, some of that's going on. And the hormones in the food, it's on record that it confuses every other advanced form of life. Other mammals, amphibians, fish, you name it. So I'm not up here judging people, but the agenda behind pushing all of this is to confuse society and break everything down and make the natural systems, the set default systems, basically anathema. And every time I mention, there was another documentary I read about, I think it was in Texas Monthly, I didn't see it, where people go and they chop fingers off, arms off, but also the big thing is they'll get molten lead poured on their backs to have big scarification, or they like to get shot with .357 Magnums, in the article I read, through up under the chest, but missing the heart to blow a huge shrapnel hole in the back, and those are real sexy, supposedly. Well, now it's in the National Post, the biggest paper in Canada, out of Ottawa. You can go read all about it today. For those of you that think I'm making this stuff up, this is the new big push, and you're just not cool enough to understand how wonderful it is to be shot with a .357 Magnum, or how cool the bullet holes are. And you know what? In a sick way, I get that better than having arms and legs chopped off. I mean, I don't see that at any level, other than, quote, wanting to be taken care of and all this stuff, and being helpless. And I guess in a helpless population that's into that, that's the religion, that it'll become sanctified. It'll become like a religion. But yeah, I've seen women that think, scars all over guys are sexy. And I guess in a way it's manly when somebody's got scars on them, especially fighting scars or bullet wounds or whatever. At an archetypal level in the tribe, we see the old warriors with scars all over them as tough. Or you could see a veteran with an arm or a leg blown off, and you recognize that sacrifice instantly, and at a primitive level, you feel an appreciation towards them. But I'll assure you, they don't like their arm or leg being blown off. And if they did, something was wrong with them. It's very sick. Very, very sick. But see, that's because I'm a trans-abled phobic. And they're now, as I predicted years ago, coming out and calling it pedophobic. NAMBLA is in courts in Australia, the UK, and other major countries. And they've got judges agreeing with them that raping children is loving, and that we are pedophobes.
World, abortion supporters routinely attend pro-life rallies and attempt to bully activists. If you have a problem and need a smelly group of commie devil worshippers, maybe you can call the A-Team.
How many did I adopt? I kill my kids.
I kill my kids.
Oh, white privileged racist male that doesn't stand for women's rights. Get the out of here.
Hey, we saw your Facebook with your communist hammer and sickle. That's pretty cool, man. Is that you on the Facebook? Is there a Facebook page of you with a hammer and sickle?
I don't think so.
I don't want children. I love Satan.
How do you get your abortions paid for?
I pay for them.
I thought you said free.
Upwards of 50.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You piece of
Bunch of misogynistic mother. Take your male privilege somewhere else.
How about you being aggressive?
I'm being aggressive.
That's the guys that attack Alex
from the front lines.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
This is a live transmission. We are live, broadcasting worldwide on this Tuesday edition, coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas in FEMA Region 6.
It was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people.
Zbigniew Brzezinski.
Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
The answer to 1984 is 1776. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
I've been saying that this is an emergency transmission for 20 years on air, and that we've been broadcasting live from occupied former U.S. territory in FEMA Region 6, and people thought that was a little bit cheeky, a little bit hokey, a little bit corny, a little bit over the top 20 years ago, and they thought it was still a little bit of a joke 15 years ago. But then, since then, they've gone from thinking maybe we really are in occupied territory to saying, absolutely, Alex, and it's worse than you say. Because the bottom has fallen out. There are no restraints anymore on tyranny other than our non-compliance and our voting with our dollars. And those are still massive resistance points. But when you talk about government and institutions, the dam has broken at the federal level. The federal government is fully captured and fully run by foreign globalist interests. There are a few final citadels of reason, like Senator Rand Paul, and he is decried as an enemy of the state for standing with the Bill of Rights and Constitution. And I come on air almost every day and am stunned now. Because basically everything I talked about 20 years ago has now happened. And now what we're talking about is coming next in the next 5 to 10 years will happen. But by then, we won't be on the air if they complete their takeover. I mean, we know the enemy plan. We know how hardcore it is. We know how real it is. And I just wish the general public knew how much peril they were in. I mean, we got really bad people getting control who've premeditatedly planned to carry out scientific wickedness, because that's who they are. Let me just give you the headlines, and we'll see if I can control myself. I've never been able to do this. Back when I was first on air 20 years ago, I could go through all the headlines and just read them, but it's become a neuroses where I just cannot just hit the headline and then go back over it. I have to just hit 4 or 5 stories and then stop on one. It's like the owl and the old Tootsie Roll commercials. Can we find that? How many... You go to the wise old owl to find out how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll. And he says, how many licks does it take, Mr. Owl? And he says, let me see. 1, 2, 3, crunch, 3. It's just too hard not to bite. But this is why I'm freaked out every time.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl.
Mr. Owl, How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
That's right, but today is the day. I'm going to read at least 50 news headlines without biting. Associated Press. FBI behind mysterious surveillance aircraft over U.S. cities. Salon. Continued bulk data collection by NSA is part of Rand Paul's white privilege racism. It's hard not to comment on that one. Cultural cleansing of Christian males, Pat Buchanan. Video, Muslims prefer Sharia, want blasphemy laws in the U.S. Bilderberg 2015, elites prepare for nuclear and economic devastation. Special report, Infowars.com, video, that's coming up. Rule by the corporations, TTIP, the Corporate Empowerment Act, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. Hacked emails expose George Soros as Ukraine puppet master. Florida court rules off-the-grid living illegal. Maine takes major step towards removing concealed weapons permit mandate. Liberals worship Caitlyn Jenner as transgender goddess. Cult-like adulation is downright creepy. Cult's the word. Obama prepares to restrict guns outside of law. Makes draconian announcement. Trendies ready for ultimate wearable. Chip implanted in their skin used for payments. It's all being announced. U.S. delivers 2,000 rockets for Iraq, but holds half back. Obama, I will never engage in politics in which I'm trying to divide people. Oh, that's funny. That's a good one. We've never been at war at East Asia either, right? Or Big Brother Loves Me. Double plus good. Let me just stop right there in that stack. Vince Vaughn is as pro-gun as it gets. Makes powerful announcements. Will be targeted. Teachers complain. Chaos reigns at St. Paul schools. Spend millions on white privilege training. Pentagon anthrax scandal spreads to Canada. So they're mailing anthrax all over the place. Well, they did it before, back in 2001. Why not again? Does that count as biting into the Tootsie Roll? Not exactly. How ABC World's News Tonight became a ratings winner. That's total spin. They've all plunged. It's just this is the turd that's floating at the top. Excuse my French, but the allegory does fit, doesn't it? Sometimes the vulgar in the repertoire of the semantical lexicon is the proper colloquialism in the nomenclature to communicate the larger verbiage to the population as a whole. Study, painkillers, anti-anxiety medications linked to increased risk of homicides, CBS News. Oh, another conspiracy theory comes true. Not brushing your teeth can lead to dementia and heart disease. That's been known forever, but now more studies. That's just some of what we're going to be going over. Becoming disabled by choice, not chance. Trans-abled people are like imposters in their fully working bodies, and the new move, National Post, is you're going to pay for people that have their arms and legs chopped off that want to live in baskets and be pushed around by their perv daddies. Oh, of course, it's sexual in nature. Continuing, we're going to break all of this down. Company launches mood-changing wearable that zaps brains. Well, that's what the TV already does to you. And this is a headline out of Quartz. We now spend more than 8 hours a day consuming media. Google's project gets it right. New wearable genes. That ties into all that information. 10 years without a hurricane hitting. It's Florida's lucky streak about to end. Well, I mean, Al Gore said we had record hurricanes last year, even though we had the lowest amount since the National Weather Service said since 1960. But, I mean, who cares